I'm Paula, and I'm going to talk about liberty versus freedom today. So, thanks for taking the time to view my video. When I was homeschooling my young children who are 15 and 19 now, I would explain to them the meaning of certain words in the Pledge of Allegiance. And, we would say the pledge every morning, and I wanted to make sure they understood exactly what they were doing when they said that. And when we got to the term liberty, I told them that liberty is the freedom to do what is right. That was my definition for liberty. And as I have explored some historical thinkers of the past, as in preparation for this video, I realized that I was partially right on that, but there's some differing opinions. So I'm going to go through some of that today, beginning with Noah Webster. In his 1828 dictionary, he said that liberty is freedom from restraint in a general sense and applicable to the body or to the will or the mind. So that's a very basic definition. He also said that natural liberty consists in the power of acting as one thinks fit, without any restraint or control except from the laws of nature. It is a state of exemption from the control of others and from positive laws and the institutions of social life. This liberty is abridged by the establishment of government. And so, if you go on the page for Webster's 1828 dictionary, you'll find that he has a lot of different definitions because it does involve, just individual liberty, political liberty, all kinds of different aspects. And so, the definition of liberty depends on which aspect you're talking about in a lot of ways. He also defines freedom as a state of exemption from the power or control of another liberty, exemption from slavery, servitude, or confinement. Freedom is personal, civil, political, and religious. So in many ways, these two terms are synonymous. And so I wanted to look at what Carolyn Robbins said. This is a picture of her I pulled off of a website. I'll post that under my abstract. But all men are born free, she says. Liberty is a gift which they receive from God Himself. And that sort of builds on what I said last week about inalienable rights, that the term is not necessarily used in the Bible, but the idea can be seen all throughout, that we do receive freedom from God, that He doesn't force us to do anything, He leaves choice up to us. She also said that real liberty is freedom to indulge ourselves in anything agreeable to nature and reason. Anything that would be, and this would be permitted under a utopian government. So the perfect form of government would let citizens do whatever they want. Which is opposite of what I told my children, that liberty is the freedom to do what is right. However, I will say that I've done many studies on political science, and a democracy without morality just won't stand. It will eventually crumble, as we saw with ancient Rome. And so a utopian government may allow anything under the sun, but if anything under the sun is going on, then it may not stand for very long. So I would agree with her in a sense, but I do think it's important. Governments are responsible for moral training in a lot of ways, and our founders saw that, and they knew that that would be extremely important in upholding liberty. And so what I discovered through all this is that liberty has many definitions, and it really depends on who you ask as to what the answer to the question is. And freedom is the same. In terms of our Constitution and American government, and really citizens all over the world, we all want liberty from a number of things, including our own governments, as well as other governments who might attempt to oppress our own government. Our particular American government may give us liberty, but there are other governments who might oppress our government and take our liberties away. And so, in order to protect our liberties and our freedoms, we have to do certain things like pay taxes and serve in the army. And so, the question is, where does one person's rights stop and another person's rights begin? I'm sorry, where does another person's rights begin? because, there may be a draft if we need people to serve in the Army. We don't have a right not to pay taxes. Everyone has to pay taxes unless you are one of those fortunate people who's tax exempt. So those are freedoms that were taken away to secure our liberties, which is sort of ironic, but necessary. And so in Western civilization, these determinations are mostly left in the hands of the people. The framers of the American Constitution desired that most decisions be made by individual citizens rather than the government. And they put the Bill of Rights in place to protect those things. And so, in a nutshell, we in America enjoy many freedoms, and we set the bar for Western civilization in a number of ways for both liberties and freedoms. So thank you. Appreciate you taking the time to watch.